afternoon, everyone. We're almost at lunch, and we're in between you and your lunch break. So we have an exciting panel today. As you know, yesterday, many of us went on our tour. We saw AI is front and center. And so today, what we've assembled today is a really exciting panel to really unpack what is customer connection in the age of AI, and what is the role and value of design leadership. So to kick it off, I have me with Arin, Bhowmick, Chief Design Officer at SAP. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your context?
Yeah, I am the Chief Design Officer at SAP. SAP is the #1 business application vendor. Over 90 or 97% of world's business transaction flows through SAP systems. So it's really about scale at SAP.
And second, we have Dan Makoski, former Chief Design Officer at UnitedHealth Group. Tell us a little bit about your experience.
Yeah, so after 25 years of leading design organizations as a Chief Design Officer, I decided last year to take a bit of a focus on designing for my own passion. So I'm now a Chief Design Advisor, working with select CEOs in how they can elevate design in a more powerful way.
And we have Greg Petroff, former Chief Design Officer at Cisco Security.
Hi, everybody. I'm spending the moment right now sort of learning about how we can use AI to change the practice of how we work, and very excited about the things we're learning in that space.
And we can't forget about Victoria over there in Atlanta. Hello, Victoria, virtually. She is the VP for Data Cloud at Salesforce, overseeing product design and user experience. Tell us a little bit about your context, Victoria.
Hello, and thank you. I am, as Gordon said, I'm the Vice President of Product Design and Usability, User Experience at Salesforce. And Salesforce, you may not have heard of it, the #1 CRM or Customer Relationship Management company in the world. And it's largely AI. Now, we're becoming agent-led, so to hear you say how AI is really taking over. At the end of the day, we pride ourselves in being the customer company, the #1 customer company, and our goal is to help build bridges between other companies and their customers. So help them become customer companies as well.
Yes, and very shortly we're going to unpack what are these digital agents. So to give some context to this panel, over the last few decades, we've seen a transformation from the internet and mobile era and cloud computing. Many of these design leaders have grown up in those contexts when we first got our devices, first got access to social technologies. But now we're in the intelligence era of AI. What's different about this era from any other era we've seen in technology and transformation? Victoria, do you want to kick us off? What's different?
Sure. So we have all been familiar with predictive artificial intelligence, where we can predict next best action type of intelligence, and generative, where we can start to generate new questions and answers. What's different about this era, this agentic era, as we call it, in a word, is autonomy. It's intelligent autonomy. These are pieces of software that have been personified as well, and they can act intelligently on their own, independent of the human operator, which really changes the scale of how your company can reach its customers, and also how they can serve their internal employees as well. So it allows us to make independent decisions on the fly, react to data that it's ingesting real time and retrieving through different technologies to drive innovation, to make decisions, to be personal coaches, to extend your hours of operation, 24/7 operation, and to really nurture the relationship with people. And so that sounds amazing, right? We can just get rid of people and we can have all agents. But no, not so quickly is what we would position. That it is really important that we take a step back and not just run rampant with the agents all over the world, and instead pause and take a look at our data strategy. What are the problems that we need solving? that agents really can benefit versus where we need the human creativity and also we need the human engineering to provide the proper oversight and ensure we're not introducing bias into these agents, right? Because it can amplify problems as well as the benefits that they bring. So it's really important that in this moment of incredible disruption that we as design leaders amplify our voices in the conversation.
Greg, I know you talk a lot about knowledge. What is different about knowledge in the age of AI? We all have so much access to knowledge now. What's going to transform?
Yeah, thanks. I think there's a couple things that are going on right now. The ability to have context of the IP of your company is new. I mean, corporations have enormous volumes of information at their disposal, but finding meaning and insight out of that data has always been difficult. And that tacit knowledge was owned by certain people in the organization, but not by all. And one of the things that's interesting about AI is it's democratizing that and allowing you to find new insights in your organization as a whole. So I think you'll hear people talk about knowledge graphs quite a bit right now, and it's really this notion of taking the structure of the information that you have in an organization and organizing it in a way that it serves the purposes of your organization, your customers, and the benefits that you want to provide to them. And the ability for everyone in an organization to have access to that and to understand that with more clarity is one of the things that we're starting to see materialize in AI that's so exciting.
Arin, I know you're fully aware of how much investment is going into the world of AI. Give us some light on that.
So as of last week, Menlo Ventures set out a study across the top 600 customers in the US, and they basically said the spend was approximately $2.3 billion in 2023 for AI. It's 13.8 2024, and then beyond that, it's going to be $250 billion. So it's exponential, and part of the interesting finding is how is this being funded? The funding, the 60% of the source of the funding is coming from innovation projects, and 40% is basically funneling in regular R&D and marketing and other function budgets into AI with the promise of return on investment. IDC just released a paper as of last week with Microsoft, and they said the expectation is for every dollar spent, there's a $4 ROI on AI. So there lies the business problem and opportunity.
Dan, you talk a lot about what is human-centeredness as you work with CEOs. Help us understand that.
Yeah, well, it's been so cool to hear some of the other speakers in fields like architecture and entertainment, where a design leader and conversation are expected and normal. In the world of software and technology, it's not always expected that you're going to have design at the table. And to me, the heart of AI, the A is artificial. It's the tech, the Silicon Valley capability side. But the I is intelligence. This is a human idea. And that's what designers do best. Who are we designing for? What do they need? How can we connect our business capabilities to their lives for meaning? And we've seen studies that show 80%, I think, of AI projects are currently failing, largely because it's a lot of CTOs throwing tech quickly at problems without really understanding the human element. So a lot of my work advising CEOs has been, let's think about purpose and people and experiences in a more profound way.
Let's bring it to something really tangible. What does this actually let us as humans do? What's different about my life today versus tomorrow as these experiences start coming out? Victoria, do you want to lead the way?
All right. Imagine a world where you're looking to go to Walt Disney World and any of its locations, and but you've never been there. You want to bring your family. You don't know much about it, and other than it's costly, and that they have many, many options. You could call the 1-800 number. You could go on the website. You can look at, but it can be very overwhelming doing a search such as that, and to understand what makes this resort right for me and my family with our unique needs. In a world where you know everything about this person because they're online, they've been on your website. If I'm Disney, I can listen to other aspects of that potential customers' interactions, both with our site and with other search engines. And you can then start to talk to them in language that makes sense to them and bring your company to them, help them understand the differences of the options that are available to them in a way that's very human-centric. I love how Dan says that, right? It's about human-centric and natural, and I can have a conversation with this artificially intelligent agent who can actually make decisions. They can also look at my history. Have I been to Disneyland before, or other theme parks in the purview? Have I also, purchased merchandise from the Disney website? I can use all of that to influence what options out of this plethora of data, what is it that we're now at, petabytes of data out there about not just all of the business offerings, not just the context of the world that this person is in and where they are, but also about them themselves, so that we can provide the best hotel option, we can stay within a budget, we can serve up when's the best time of year for you to go, right? If we know you have 2 small kids that are in elementary school. That's what's different about this new era. It is not just predicting what you need, it's also being intelligent, right size, right channel. So it's not just typing on a laptop in a conversational box with a chatbot anymore. That's what makes it next level, because you're bringing together that data plus machine learning, the large language models, as well as action in service of a specific business goal to meet a specific human need. And so that's what's next level. We're seeing artificial intelligence and agents show up in healthcare, right? Being your personal exercise and nutrition coach as well. And also looking at your health data from your continuous glucose monitor or blood pressure kit, and suggest healthier options for you that is contextually relevant to you. And so that's what changes the game, because it extends the reach of the company, and it's also bringing what humans need, if designed appropriately without bias. It brings it to them in a way that they can consume it most easily, in the channels that they can consume it most easily as well.
Yeah, and I think one of the things of AI is, how does it help humans from the mundane? Maybe things we hate doing, spending time doing over and over again. Arin, you work in a world where there is a lot of mundane tasks for the ordinary professional. What are some contexts of, in HR and so forth, where AI comes in?
Yeah, I think, again, getting back to my point, we specialize in working on business software and applications. So these are software that you would use day to day to get your jobs done, whether you're an HR professional, whether you're an inventory clerk or a warehouse manager or a supply chain analyst. You look across the board. And the question is, can AI actually help get your job done better? Save you time so you can spend more time to think through what's more important. So as an example, I'm sure a lot of you manage teams. You've got employees. And one of the common things that most managers do at the end of the year is performance evaluations and goal setting. Setting a goal sounds simple. You got to write it up. Do you have fun writing it up? Do you really know your employee well enough to be able to formulate that message? What if AI was an enabling technology that gave you the nuggets of information that lets you to generate the goals based on the context of the skill the person has and the broader OKRs that you carry? So those are little fragments of AI when embedded in the workflows, how people get their job done. That gives the benefit statement. I would still say that for me, AI is a enabling technology, right? It is there for us to serve a means to end. Experience is the product. And so when you think about AI, if you can successfully think about the use cases and what problem are we trying to solve? And if you can net that, then like any other user-centered design process, AI is going to be adopted. Because at the end of the day, businesses care about adoption. So if you build AI that doesn't serve a purpose, guess what? Trust is broken. And once trust is broken, it's very, very hard to get it back. So I think we have, as a design leader, many interesting challenges to go through.
Greg, you're a huge proponent of thinking about new innovation structures, new innovation processes. How does this new era enable a new kind of innovation? How are design organizations needing to be changed or evolved? Give us a little bit of light on the changing dynamics.
Yeah, that's a great question, Gordon. And I think one of the things that we're tasked with is there's AI in purpose of the products that we create and serve, and there's also AI that we use in developing those products for our customers to serve. And I think there's a great conversation going on right now about how do we use those tools to build better products, better services, better outcomes for humans and our customers. And I think the area that's most interesting to me right now, where I'm spending a lot of my attention, is around product discovery. And this is really trying to understand product market fit, understanding your customer base, understanding their behaviors, their trust quotients. Are they willing to accept something? What are their levels of trust with the technology? And one of the things that you can do, especially right now with RAG models, retrieval augmented generative tools, you can actually build custom models from the IP of your own organization and use that to drive insights. And every time I've done that with teams recently, we have identified new things that we should be following up on and learning fast and quickly with that content. So I think one of the things that's really interesting right now is the ability to really understand the content that you have at your disposal, find meaning in it quickly, and then using that to iterate and test faster. And that's going to change the way that we work. We can move faster, and we can actually be more on target with the outcomes that we're delivering and have more efficacy in the end of the day for the end user of the products that we build.
Dan, let's connect that back to your thought about the failure rates. What is that kind of essential role of the design leader and designers in this next era? We're all very familiar with human-centered design practices, but to Greg's point, things are moving faster. We can achieve insights sooner. So how's that going to impact the bottom line?
Yeah, I mean, there's this really famous model about innovation happening at the intersection of business, technical, and human factors. You may have all heard this before. And it's very obvious to designers that we have to work at the intersection of viability, feasibility, and desirability. The desirability conversation just isn't always there. Having been a chief design officer in these C-suite meetings, it's a lot about quarterly returns, about viability. It's a lot about feasibility. Can we do this from a technology perspective? But like just one little example, Gordon, to bring this home, how many of you here in the last week have said, hey, Google, hey, Siri, or hey, Apple, to Alexa, to a speaker? Anybody here? Do you guys use that experience? Couple? Not many? It's pretty annoying. Well, that was actually created about 10 years ago by a design team at Motorola that was using design research methods to allow ordinary people to role play the future in their homes using foam core and other kind of materials. And when we saw people speaking naturally to screens, we were inspired and said, we can build that. And when Google bought us and they saw how much people loved the Hey Moto experience, they said, let's just make one change. Instead of Hey Moto, let's call that Hey Google. We were like, great, that's awesome. Now, AI has advanced so much in those days, but when you put design at the heart of your technology process, you start with real people and real needs, and it makes it much less likely that you'll get to something that'll fail because it's just technologists throwing things out into the wild.
I think there's also a lot of anxiety about AI's impacts on jobs. What does that next generation designer look like? What skills do they need to learn or unlearn? Arin, let's kick it off there and we'll go to Victoria.
I think the important aspect of a designer is end-to-end thinking. Sometimes we lose that while we are working on design. So systems thinking is an attribute that we need to carry forward. That's one. And then part B is you got to understand the technology you're designing for. So for a designer to understand how to adopt, apply, embed AI, they need to understand the ramifications of it. How can it be used? Third, typically designers don't look into data. They look at designing experiences based on the use case. Unfortunately, it's garbage in, garbage out for AI. So it's important that designers expand their notion to understand a little bit on data lineage, data quality, where it's coming from. And the fourth question they're going to ask themselves is more on the ethical moral side. Is this thing going to help or hurt the user? Simple question. So, being the moral compass sometimes is hard in a business setting, but that's the role we have to play.
Victoria?
Yes, I want to double down on the data piece and the ethics piece. These models, incredibly complex, and they're learning, with every interaction and every transaction. And it's really important that we recognize that, like Arin said, garbage in, garbage out, and like the power of the artificial intelligence of the agentic era is the data. And so that isn't always the most comfortable place for designers or design leaders. Understanding data, data hygiene, data governance, how these training models work, so that we're not introducing inherent. Humans have biases, and humans train models, so then the models then exponentially increase the adverse impact of them. So we have to be very careful about that, and we really do need to understand the data. And it's not just the data that you own within your company. What makes agents super powerful and relevant is that they're able to process real time, fractions of millisecond time, they can process data from outside of your company. So, I'm at Salesforce, I use the Data Cloud product, and we like to say our agent force runs on Data Cloud, because that's exactly the layer where my team and I spend most of our time looking at what data are we using to measure success? What data are we using to understand accurately, with low hallucinations is what we call it, accurately understand the context that user is operating within, and that there's no one size fits all, right? So not every novice user of your product uses it the same way or needs it the same way. And that's true not just here at Salesforce, but across many industries and sectors.
I'll just add a little bit to Victoria's point. I think one of the talk about agentic or agentive design, it depends on how you look at it. It's really about thinking about agents as a additional persona that we have to design for it. So human-centered design, you would design for the humans at the end of it. Human-machine interaction, as human and machines interact with each other. Now you got humans, agents, machines. So that trifecta you have to design for. So the natural language processing, understanding the way to interact with agents becomes a key factor on how the design profession has to evolve as well.
So there's a lot of rush to AI design solutions, right? And so, Dan, you highlighted a little bit about the pressures of quarterly cycles, and all public companies are accountable to that. So what is that important dimension for next generation designers to consider cost, speed? Maybe things won't be as perfect as we hope it to be as designers. So what's that kind of contrast? I'd love you and Greg to expand on that dimension.
Well, I think generally design, particularly in the world of software and technology, needs to be more able and capable of having business conversations, period, right? Whether it's AI or whether it's just talking about how we work, how many folks we should have relative to developers or product managers, et cetera. And I think with the world of AI, some of the conversations I've seen is there's a lot of CEOs who don't really understand design. They just think of them as those black turtleneck wearing creative people in the corner that make stuff look pretty in a very superficial way. They think of it as on that level. And they're like, I've heard that AI can actually do that stuff automatically. Do we really need to hire more designers? So I think it's not only having designers learn the language of business, but also continuing that executive education to really help leaders understand that design, yes, we do make things look beautiful and gorgeous and incredible, but we also care about how people feel and their needs and the societal implications and accessibility and all the human sides of the equation. And actually, when you have that conversation with leaders, they realize, I need you in my AI strategy because we have ethics, we have societal issues that are being raised that we don't know how to deal with, and design is great to weigh in on those.
Yeah, and just to build on that and something that Victoria said, I think we're in a moment where we can drive an enormous amount of context about the humans in the loop and then deliver solutions in a very different way. I mean, most of us now, when we use software, we go look for something and then we have to find it and then we need to act on it and then we need to move forward with it, and there's a process to do that. But these systems are changing. We're you know, for those of you who are using AI, maybe not everybody is right now, but for those of you who are, you start to recognize that you're having a relationship with the agent, and that relationship is becoming intimate over time because it starts to know things about you. And these systems are actually just starting to have sentiment analysis so that they can understand if you're under duress or if you're sad or if you're happy, and then will course correct their answers to you based on your own emotional state. So the intentional decisions that we need to make on the products that we create need to reflect the brand of the company, the value proposition that you're creating, the outcomes that users and customers are expecting, and do it in the most human way possible. And to do that well, design needs to be in the middle of the conversation for sure.
And to kind of wrap it up and make it actionable, what is that one thing you want this audience to take away as we think about how can companies be successful in this age of AI and benefit as many humans as possible? Victoria, give us that one sentence and we'll roll through the panel. Greg?
I would just say make to think. Get your hands in the making of the process and learn it. The faster that you use the tools, the quicker you'll learn how to take advantage of them.
Dan?
If AI is helping us automate what's ordinary, it'll frees us up to think about what humans can do that's extraordinary. So raise the bar on how you contribute to a project.
Arin?
At the end of the day, you're designing for humans. AI is just a technology.
And Victoria?
Yes, my takeaway would be get involved, even in the conversations that make you uncomfortable. And that's especially important now, especially important for design. Know your value and lean in on all of our skills that we bring to the table in this new age of agentic.
Awesome. Well, thank you to our panelists for sharing today. I hope we usher a strong future for humanity as we think about the next era of design and AI. Next up, we have lunch. I'm here to tell you that it's been an illuminating morning learning from so many different guests. And we're now going to break for lunch, which will be held in 2 locations, depending on your registration. Those of you who have signed up in the China Design session will gather in the Grand Salon 1 and 2. Everyone else will be here at the Vista, which you'll find by walking out of the ballroom and heading directly up the escalators beyond the foyer to level 2. There will be ushers standing by the doors to direct you. And we'll see everyone back here main stage for more great conversations at 2 p.m. So let's give a round of applause to these great panelists. Thank you.